Good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted about our panel discussion on this afternoon. I am glad that we have over 100 alumni and friends that have registered for our panel discussion today. This afternoon, we have our Associate Dean, Amit Deokar. He is going to moderate a wonderful panel on embracing generative AI for businesses and consumers, industry leaders' perspective. And throughout the discussion today, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. My colleague Amy Lee and I will monitor them. And at the end of the panel discussion, we will open the platform for any questions that you may have. So at this time, I would like to turn the panel over to Amit.
All right. Thank you, Rija. Welcome, everyone. Great to see you all. We have an exciting discussion for all of us today. And we have a great panel for us as well. So I'm going to start by introducing our panelists quickly. So we have Gianni Falzone. He's a double river hawk. He earned his bachelor's in business administration as well as a MS in innovation and technological entrepreneurship from UMass Lowell, and he's a professional in machine learning, data science, and AI areas. Most recently, he's been at Operative Intelligence as the manager of sales and go-to-market lead. He's also worked in other companies like Pinstop. He was also a director for demand generation and sales development and strategic initiatives at Data Robot, actually a company co-founded by an alum from UMass Lowell. And then we have Jennifer Isidoro. She is also a UMass Lowell alum. She earned her master's in environmental studies from UMass Lowell, and she's currently a data science manager at UKG here in Lowell. She has a tremendous amount of experience with analytics, data mining, statistical modeling, machine learning, and forecasting. She's very effective in partnering with businesses to understand their business needs, gathering requirements, turning them into practical insights, recommendations, and solutions. Um, Also, we have with us Aaron Burren, who is the CEO of Jag Alliance. He's a co-founder of jagbots.ai as well. And the company uses their platform to help other companies streamline operations and increasing productivity. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about his company and platform from him as well. And so he is working in the sense of helping using the platform, empowering businesses, other businesses of all sizes to take advantage of conversational and generative AI. So very warm welcome to our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us. So the way we will structure our panel today is I'll start with a quick overview of generative AI with a few small examples to get us all situated with respect to how we think about generative AI. And then we'll jump into some questions for our panelists for about 20-25 minutes. And then we will lead into questions from all of you. So if you're thinking about questions as we start our discussion, please feel free to put the questions in the chat. We will get help from Rija and Amy, who will help us monitor that. And as we start our Q&A, we will jump into those as we one by one. All right. So let's jump in. So I guess now we can say that we had a couple years back. This was November 30th, 2022. This was the chat or Twitter message from Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, that really was transformational in the sense of how people started thinking about AI and using generative AI, right? So this was a simple tweet from him talking about the launch of ChatGPT, and that really got people thinking using generative AI. And you wonder what generative AI is, and people were really curious about it. And interestingly, this curiosity led to a whopping 100 million users trying to experiment with ChatGPT in less than 2 months. look at some of the other platforms here, right? So TikTok took 9 months, Instagram 30 months, Snapchat 36. And those of us who've been on Facebook, the little older folks, I think, getting to took around 48 months, right? So this is the fastest adopted technology so far that we have. And there are other platforms that have come since, like Notebook LM and others, Perplexity. So the ChatGPT was definitely at the forefront of it back then. And so I think still is, as we are seeing some of the developments. So as we think about ChatGPT, we are also seeing tremendous ways in which ChatGPT is so-called intelligent, right? So I use the word intelligent in quotes, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we are seeing that ChatGPT is intelligent in the sense of passing a lot of exams from law, business schools, AP exams, even the preparatory exam for being a neurosurgeon, the concepts, the knowledge, which is astonishing, right? And this was ChatGPT 4, which which is basically shown to pass pretty much every entrance exam for graduate and undergraduate studies. Right, so this really took people by surprise to some extent, and people got more and more curious, and makes you wonder what generative AI really is. So let's maybe take a step back and think about AI in general. So the term artificial intelligence, or AI, was actually coined way back in 1956 by John McCarthy from MIT. And so this was the first time then people were thinking about creating machines that could emulate how humans think and solve problems. And there have been tremendous progress since then. We call the AI summers and AI winters, the ups and downs, where AI has been powerful, and then it had a lot of promise, but then it sometimes did not stand up to the promise because the technology wasn't there. And the new thing that is happening now is that people are actually seeing some of this technology in place. So generative AI, if you were to describe in a simple way, it's basically the way of predicting the next token, whether it's text, whether it's next image in sequence. So you think of it like a super smart predictor trying to predict the next thing. Just to give you a sense, here's a prompt that you can see. And if you look at what the prompt is saying, it's a stylish woman walking down a Tokyo street filled with warm, glowing neon and animated city signage. So you can see the description is actually leading to generating this video image. And so this is really astonishing how the technology is able to do that. And so look at all the nuances. And so this is what we are seeing in terms of the multimodality right now, where the combination of text and video is coming together. Also, just to give you another flavor, OpenAI has previewed what is called as their voice engine, right? So by using just a few seconds of audio from humans, it can actually create generated audio. So let's take a listen to this particular audio.
Force is a push or pull that can make an object move, stop, or change direction. Imagine you're riding a bike down a hill. First, the push you give off the ground is the force that gets you going.
And now let's look at the generated audio.
Some of the most amazing habitats on Earth are found in the rainforest. A rainforest is a place with a lot of precipitation, and it has many kinds of animals, trees, and other plants. Tropical rainforests are usually not too far from the equator and are warm all year.
So it's amazing. I couldn't figure out, and I think that's one of the things that we are all struggling with, and is how do you distinguish between AI generated content and human generated content? So I don't think the detectors are able to catch it anymore. So they are not there yet. It's a cat and mouse game, and so clearly. this is no longer the case that we can detect AI generated content, right? Whether it's sound, whether it's text, and that is obviously creating some issues and questions, and a lot of, in fact, deeper questions as well for us.
Force.
So now actually we are also seeing that AI can reason across other modalities like audio, vision, text in real time. So if you have ChatGPT on your app, and if you're using the even with the ChatGPT Pro version as well, but also with even the free version, they're getting there, is you can actually converse with it, right? So you can talk to it because now it's predicting the next word, but then it's not only using text to give it back to you or present it, but actual voice, right? So let's take a quick listen to this particular example.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Rocky. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm awesome. Listen, I got some huge news.
Oh, do tell. I'm all ears.
Well, in a few minutes, I'm going to be interviewing at OpenAI. Have you heard of them?
OpenAI? Huh? Sounds vaguely familiar. Kidding, of course. That's incredible, Rocky. What kind of interview?
Well, it's for a software engineering role, but I just need to know, do I look presentable, professional?
Well, Rocky, you definitely have the I've been coding all night look down, which could actually work in your favor. Maybe just run a hand through your hair or lean into the mad genius vibe. Your
Well-
enthusiasm is what's really going to shine through.
I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to throw this on. What do you think?
Hey, that's quite a statement piece. I mean, you'll definitely stand out, though maybe not in the way you're hoping for an interview.
Okay, I got it.
All right. So hopefully we get a chuckle out of this, but also see and notice the humor that it's able to capture, right? I think it's fascinating how the technology is able to understand the moods and sentiments, right? So that's just a quick preview of what the technology is able to do. So we could keep going on and on with these kind of examples now, but I want to now turn on to our panel to see what their perspectives are in using this technology, both in their companies as well as in their personal lives as well, right? So let me start by asking questions to each of our panelists about how their company is using generative AI, right? And they'll also give a little bit about how they are doing that in their own role as well. So let's start with Gianni.
Thanks, Amit. Hi, everyone. My name is Gianni Falzoni, and as Amit mentioned, I have been working in the AI space for quite some time now, most recently at a startup, Operative Intelligence. What we did is we used generative AI in a unique way for customer service teams. So many customer service teams are rushing to use generative AI in a customer-facing fashion. We actually took a step back and used the technology and the underlying large language models to listen to and understand all of the reasons why customers were calling a specific, say like your bank or insurance company, and then categorize those so that the management could eliminate service issues before they happen or help the customer service agents improve their performance.
Great. Thank you so much. Jennifer, what do you think? How are you using or your company's using generative AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a data science manager at UKG, so AI is everywhere for me. Right now, we're leveraging Gen AI both internally and externally to transform not only the way that we work, but the way that our customers work, or over 80,000 customers. So for some internal applications, one of the things that we're using is GitHub Copilot. So this enables our engineers, our data scientists, anyone who's hands-on keyboards to generate code faster, debug faster, and generally just improve developer productivity. So they have more time freed up for higher level thinking about design and problem solving and all those kind of good things that we really want to focus our time on. We also have a Gen AI enablement team. So this is a team that's dedicated to using Gen AI to help solve different business process challenges. For example, creating retrieval augmented generation solutions that are essentially a document retrieval system where people from legal or sales or customer service can store their documents, ask questions, and get an answer rather than having to search through a SharePoint folder or emails or something like that. It's all right at their fingertips using our Gen AI solutions. Externally, we have a whole bunch of exciting features that we're releasing to our customers through our Bright AI product suite. The first set of them were very focused on Gen AI, so things like summarizing your performance review. So when you go to write it, you can kind of take all the feedback you've received throughout the year. It's all there available in a nice summary rather than, again, having to go through old messages or, wherever that information might be, it's all there for you. Recently, we've launched our latest Gen AI features, our AI agent suite. So AI agents take generative AI a step further by turning the generative AI processes into actionable tools. So unlike a chatbot or a text-based assistant, agents are designed to perform tasks, make decisions, and interact autonomously with other systems. There's still a human in the loop interacting, asking questions, but it really gives the AI that artificial intelligence where it's making decisions, deciding, if someone asks, I want to request next Tuesday off, it looks for the right tool, makes that request for the user without them, again, having to go into the system and do that themselves. Everything we do is, always human in the loop. We don't want to take away that we're an HR company. That's very important to us. But if we can develop tools that help free up managers' time and enable employees to engage more meaningfully in their roles, then that's what we're doing here.
Great. I loved how you emphasize the human in the loop. I think that's so key right now in how we use this as a tool in terms of amplifying what we are doing in terms of our work, our activities. But also, I liked your comment about the productivity of software developers. In fact, I read a study recently about nearly 30% improvement in productivity gains. Although there is actually a counter study that I would like to also point out is that people are talking about falling asleep at the wheel, so to speak, right? So making sure that we are cautious because sometimes we rely too much on it, and we'll come back and maybe talk a little bit about that as well. Aaron, what do you think?
Thanks for having me here today, Aaron Boren. Well, it's kind of interesting because we are actually users of AI every day in our business, and we actually we're a traditional manufacturer for health and wellness, beauty, and personal care products. And what we did is we were figuring out how could we use this to help our business. And I think the thing that we've seen is that business owners really need to identify, I believe, to start like with your repetitive tasks or those customer interactions that tend to consume a lot of time and resources, but don't necessarily require, I would say, like the human creativity or decision making. And AI is perfect for automating these tasks. When we initially implemented AI, we did it to handle our inquiries, to streamline our supply chain, and even assist us with our compliance. And one effective strategy is to use conversational AI. It's something I'm very passionate about because I love the way that works. It's allowed us to be able to automate customer support, even our lead generation, our follow-ups. And I think for business owners, though, it's really essential to tailor the tools to your businesses because AI is not a one-size-fits-all. But the good thing is it's easily trained and it retains. And so whether you're doing it from manuals, employee workbooks, product details, your website, your FAQs, it allows you to be able to have a seamless extension of your team. And I think, and I agree with what was just said, the goal is to free up your human staff to focus on strategic high value activities while the AI takes care of the rest. And we've just found it to be very effective in helping that way.
Great. Yeah, no, I think those are great points. So just maybe around taking that thread along, as we are thinking about how each of your businesses are using generative AI, how do you see the nature of work in general changing, right? So what roles are being transformed more so than others? What roles you see not so much being affected? Maybe Jennifer, you want to start us thinking about this?
Yeah, absolutely. We touched on it earlier where, talking about engineering efficiency, data science efficiency, it really frees up time where you might have spent hours debugging something or writing a test, it's something that GitHub Copilot can do for you. Again, I think that's a good point about, making sure not to fall asleep at the wheel. You still got to check and test and trust, or be critical of what you're getting back from the whatever system you're using. But it really is kind of changing the way we think about how we code. It's also, kind of changing data science as a field itself, right? So back maybe even 5 years ago, you might fine tune an NLP model to do something like sentiment analysis and spend tons of time and, hundreds of people, to be over exaggerating, labeling data that says this text from an employee survey, for example, this is the sentiment and this is the sentiment for the next one. Gen AI can create synthetic test data for you. It can even do the sentiment analysis for you right there, then and there, without you even having to training a model. And we've done some tests internally and it's pretty on par, the out of the box using OpenAI or Google or, Anthropic. So it's sometimes an existential crisis, but it's definitely, keeps you on your toes and keeps you thinking about how can we use this effectively and what more can we do with that, building upon what we already do.
Yeah, so great. I mean, I hear software development roles are clearly changing, transforming in that space. What any other thoughts? Maybe Aaron, you want to pitch in?
Sure. Mine's a little bit different perspective from the business owner's perspective is that we've seen customer service is a very obvious choice, I believe, for using AI because it can also handle everything 24/7, 365, giving the consumers the response that they want, giving the information when they want it, not just based on working hours. On the sales and marketing side, we've seen it create amazing outreach campaigns, follow-up campaigns, and it's actually even taken people through the entire sales process now. And we've also seen that the companies are using right now with their sales teams, like the fact that their sales teams get to focus more on the relationships and working on the higher value task rather than the mundane things that have to get done along the sales process. And also when it comes to like scheduling, lead qualification, all those type of things. And I think one area that we've seen a lot of businesses really appreciated is the fact that a lot of businesses were closed over the holidays, but people are still here. They have their phone, they're working, they're asking questions, they want, services or products, and people are shopping, and it just gives them the ability to be able to have it now. And I think it's really allows your people to focus more on being. I think roles and most of our roles have been strictly execution focused, and now they're becoming more strategic focused because you have this empowerment of AI that's actually able to just not only just execute tasks, but the shift about replacing people isn't accurate. It's about giving them the tools so they can actually amplify their effectiveness and be able to get more done in a day. And the productivity increases are actually staggering what we're seeing with companies.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And also the other kind of related thing is I'm seeing a lot of roles that are creative, roles that need a lot of that sort of ideation. I think generative AI is very good at it. It's great at creating the drafts for a lot of people, whether it's emails, whether it's reports. Um, but also, I think one of the concerns that people often have is hallucination, right? People, because it's a technology that is predicting that next word, so it's not necessarily looking at what it's accurate or not. And it relies a lot on the context, which means, but because it has so much vast knowledge that it's learning from, there is still a possibility that it may be hallucinating. And I think one of the big developments now recently is that it can do web searching, which allows it to provide sources, whether almost like a Google search, whether it can provide backup its generation with sources. So that is actually helping control based on how well you want to how much creativity you want it to have, right? Because you can almost tune it in that sense. Gianni, do you want to maybe comment on like how business owners might be approaching in terms of leveraging generative AI in their companies and some strategies they could consider?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say I completely agree with what's already been said around generative AI being a productivity tool and the need for the human in the loop. Because what I would say, similar to what you were saying, Amit, is the hallucinations is actually, for generative AI, it's more of a feature because it's predicting the next word that's going to be said. Whereas as a business owner, I would take more of a conservative approach to make sure you have the expertise or trusted vendors, because those hallucinations can potentially be damaging to your brand. There's a couple famous examples out there. Like, I think a lot of people have seen the one where the generative AI sold somebody a Chevy for $1, or there was a famous one with an airline where the AI misquoted the bereavement fare. So someone who had just lost a loved one was told an incorrect policy from the generative AI. So I think it's important to think about the use cases in which you're going to use it. My perspective and is probably internal is safer, like almost like we were saying, is drafting that email, taking that first pass, taking a first pass at a sales document, a marketing plan, looking over something from a legal perspective. The other thing that I would tell business owners to, take into account is, if it's not connected to the internet to get the most up-to-date data, is try to understand like when the model was trained, because it may not have the most up-to-date data for the answers that it's going to give.
Yeah, those are great points. I'm seeing a couple questions, which is great. I think I'll address a couple of them and maybe pose, weave into our conversations as we go as well. Peter is asking about a concrete example of productivity increase, and I think Gianni, you touched on some of them, like generating emails and so forth. But just I think as a food for thought, I mean, I think a simple example, like if I were to give maybe 2 minutes for each of you to generate ideas on how you could use a pen other than writing. Perhaps you could come up with, I don't know, 50, maybe less ideas in 2 minutes. But I think with generative AI, you're probably going to get over 100, 200 ideas. Now, keep in mind, not all of them are going to be great. Some of them are going to be nonsensical, but because you have all of these ideas, we as humans, and this is where again we get back to the human in the loop, is that we as humans could be very effective in just scanning through them to see which of these are novel, which of these can be useful, right? So that's just one sort of way how we can think of it creating, helping us ideas. Anybody else wants to add, give an example of a productivity increase in their work?
I can give an example of one of the products that we're developing right now. So one of the use cases for generative AI through the agents is having people request PTO, right? So our app, UKG, you could open it up, you can click to the right screen, you can select your dates, you can submit it to your manager, and maybe that's 6 or 7 clicks. I forget what the exact number is. Or you could open up the app. There's a little, like a Siri button. Click that, say, hey, I want to request next Tuesday off. The agent understands what date it is. It understands who you are. It understands who your manager is, submits that request for you, maybe gives you some validation back, says, hey, is this correct? And you say, yep. And that goes right onto your manager. So again, things like that are making someone's life a little bit easier. So I think over time that adds up, even if it's saving 30 seconds right then. It's a great value.
I also think a
Awesome.
lot of the things you said, Jennifer, around like GitHub and like the coding piece, I feel is huge as far as productivity gains go.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've seen is it can easily analyze data. Obviously, you have to be careful as to what kind of data, and there are options to not share the data with for training and all of that. But it can easily generate graphs around it, which can be very powerful. I'm seeing a question from Jim about he's running a small business. He doesn't have enough time in his day, and how can AI help him if he's not good at technology, or somebody like him, right? I mean, so I'm thinking of um, people who want to spend or use this technology, because I think they're right in the sense that unless you use the technology, you are not going to be good, get good at it. So I've heard rules of thumbs like spending roughly around 10 hours yourself over a few days, of course. Just staying at it, having conversations with it, because the first time you talk to it, you're gonna get pretty underwhelmed, maybe like, oh, that's it, kind of thing. And then you have to converse with it, provide more context, and then you'll start getting better and better results. So, anybody wants to maybe comment on how could a small business owner start getting good at it, or maybe start thinking about what ways they can use it?
Yeah, I think Giovanni hit on it earlier when he said that, you know, you got to make sure that you're getting yourself around the right companies and the right tools to be able to do these jobs, because there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of nonsense as well. And one of the things that I think you said Jim was asking, um, for small businesses, that that's really kind of our target market is small and medium-sized businesses. And one thing that we've found that's really effective, and I'm going to just give one real quick analogy just to help this make sense for the small business owners that maybe haven't used AI in their business, or they've used it, but they think it's cool, but they don't know how to actually turn it into a predictable revenue source that they can actually know and see outcomes. Is that I tell people is that, and this goes to your point, Giovanni, is that if you can picture a bowling alley, you know, you get your 10 pins at the end, you've got your and you got your two gutters, and then the bowling ball, that's your prospect or your customer. And the idea is that you want them to hit whichever pin is based on what they're needing, whether it's customer support, whether they have sales questions, whether it's good, trying to set a medical appointment, whatever the task is, you want to make sure that pin is hit. And so one of the things that we've built is the bumpers. And that's something that we're really big on, is the bumpers, because you have to have the bumpers to make sure that it doesn't hallucinate, it doesn't go off into areas that it doesn't belong, and you want to keep the AI on track so that your actual mission is accomplished and that you get the strike, so to speak, right? And so the way that we're seeing businesses, and I'll give an example, we have a chiropractor that we recently enrolled, and he's got about 2,000 patients that have been with him over the years, and about half of those, you know, come occasionally or never come, whatever. And, you know, for him to get his staff to actually make the calls, reach out to them, try to get them to come in, let them know about other services, it's just not happening. So we actually set up an AI to physically reach out to all those people. It did it through both voice and text, and started booking. And we saw a 30% increase, literally within 3 days of his business, just from being able to do that. And we also do like database reactivations. We had a med spa that just recently decided to start offering cryotherapy in their spa. Well, they had almost 3,000 people who've been through their business at some point, and we went into that database, and they booked $40,000 in prepaid cryotherapy sessions, and a human being was not involved in any of the process. It was 100% done by, including booking, looking at the schedules, putting it in their calendars. I mean, it's really pretty crazy how you can do it. And like the HVAC guy, you know, he's up working in a roof or something like that, or, you know, up in an attic. Someone calls him, it goes to his voicemail, and then they go to the next HVAC person on the phone book trying to find somebody who can help them. This could actually answer the phone for them, book it, schedule it, answer their questions. So there's a lot of things that you can do that are very practical in a business. And that's why I kind of tell business owners that, you know, think big, but start small, pick something that's a pain point and solve that. Check your ROI on it, make sure that it's working, because I don't believe that AI should actually cost you anything. If it's implemented right, it should absolutely be a positive ROI for your business, and very measurable, very quick. So that's how I see a lot of small businesses using it.
Yeah, and I think also to sort of summarize what you said in a sense of bring AI to the table is what we hear, right? So meaning think of AI in every task that you are doing almost, right? So taking a task approach, but also thinking of how can AI be used for that task. Not everything about that task maybe is where AI could be used, but there are some aspects of that task where AI could be used. So think about it that way. Um, so maybe shifting gears a little bit around how consumers can maybe think about generative AI, right? So consumers, when they are either using products, services, engaging with digital platforms, say like let's say shopping online, banking, reading news, things like that. How should consumers think about using generative AI? How can a generative AI help them make better decisions? What should they be cautious about? So anybody wants to jump in there?
Sure, I can jump in. I think from a consumer's perspective, and even like the last question, a small business owner perspective, and someone who doesn't have big AI teams or resources around it, I think generative AI is actually a really accessible way for folks. You just type in your question, or like the demo we saw, you could talk to it. And the other thing, going back to some of the original slides, was it's getting so good that it can pass certain exams for certain professions. So you can think of generative AI as almost a free way to access entry level folks in certain professions. So if you had a question about legal, or you had a question about product rankings, or understanding if something is going to work with something else, I think consumers probably have the greatest opportunity when it comes to generative AI, because many of the large companies are going to put this into their products. Google's already doing it. You can already see it in Facebook and WhatsApp and those types of things. And then I think once agents become a little bit more accessible, especially from a consumer space, you'll be able to do things like have your AI agent, instead of booking your time off at work, go and make your dinner reservation, or reach out to customer service for you. So you might even have this scenario where the consumer's Gen AI is talking to the company's Gen AI to figure out a consumer issue, which will be interesting.
Great ideas. Anybody else wants to jump in?
I would say, in terms of being cautious, these models are getting better and better every day. It's getting harder and harder to tell, a real image from a fake one. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. Sometimes it might be, you might question it, even with text. So always something to be conscious of. There's also, there can be biases in these models and what they're producing, even if it is generated content and it's advertised as generated content. Just like traditional machine learning models, they're only as good as the data that goes into them. So something to be aware of when you see generated output, or when you're working on your own or playing around with it. Always double check, always kind of question or be a little critical. And then I guess mention, be aware of companies that might be using your data to train LLMs or generative models. I think it was LinkedIn maybe a month ago that announced that, you had to turn off a feature to not allow them to use your data for LLMs. So just be aware of, what websites you're going on for signing up for something. And, not saying it's all doom and gloom and negative to do so, but just be aware if it's something that you want to be conscious of. And
yeah, kind of that old adage around, if it's free, you're the product.
Right.
Yeah, I think great ideas. I think as consumers, I mean, there is also this notion of you can use it for many of your questions, like let's say planning an itinerary, or recipes, things like that. That could be an everyday use almost, could be very useful and effective. Again, now integration with the web search, it provides you those links that makes it that allows you to sort of verify and actually go to the source and see if what it's generating is can be backed up with that source. So that's always the option there. Also, I think I agree with Jennifer in terms of like the online shopping, right? A lot we used to rely a lot, or we still rely a lot on the reviews, but now we have to be extra cautious in terms of whether some of these reviews are AI generated, and it's really getting so sophisticated that it's uh, you know, hard to rely on it. One of the things that are people are concerned more deeply is this sort of alignment, human alignment, or AI alignment, where the goals of AI are aligned with what our human goals are. And so at some point we are also seeing so much AI generated content. There's a mix between the human generated content and the AI generated, that it's going to be very difficult to figure out one versus the other. So that is something, as consumers, I think we have to be seeing that it's coming. We have to be cautious about it, and so forth, right? So let's say if for our audience members who are looking to explore generative AI, what would you suggest? Any advice that you would provide?
I would say, if you're looking to start dabbling in it, take something you like doing. If it's cooking, ask it for some recipes. If it's writing, ask it, hey, I have this idea, give me an outline, or, throw some thoughts, throw some thoughts around. Again, just getting used to kind of the nuances, the quirks of working with these types of systems. But once you kind of sit down with, Anthropic or ChatGPT or, whatever system you want to use, it really does get your mind open and thinking about, oh, wow, if it could do this, could it do this too? Oh, wow, it could even do this. Great. So I think just to get the ideas flowing, it's take something you like, are familiar with. You can even test it, give it, try to get it to answer wrong, which is always fun. But yeah, that'd be my advice.
Yeah, one thing I would definitely, I think those are great points. I think one thing I could add is in terms of thinking of AI as your maybe a friend or and that is where sort of you have to think and give AI a persona almost, sort of say, okay, AI, you are my tutor today, or AI, you are my advisor, AI, you are so and so, and then providing it the context about what you're asking it to help with, right? Because that's how I think, going back to Aaron's point about guardrails, the guardrails are based on how much information you are telling it to look for or generate or not to look for, right? You can tell it, don't go beyond the file that I'm providing to provide me answers about it. So things like that where you're providing certain context and guardrails, but also telling it what role it should play. Just as an idea, I mean, I think the OpenAI surveyed the different use cases that are being used, and the number one use case that people are using generative AI, or at least ChatGPT, is for learning. So learning is such a big use case and not just educational or academic, it could be any sort of learning, right? So whether it's learning to fix a bike or something else, but also a lot of like personalized tutoring, like it's really leveling the playing field for a lot of people in terms of learning different concepts, different ideas, right? Anybody else wants to add to the comments?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said, Amit, is being as specific as possible in your prompts or what you put in. The more specific, the better answer you'll get. Similar to, when we looked at the use case with the video, that was a very specific input to get that output. If you just said, give me a video of a lady walking, it would look nothing like that. But the more specific you can be, the better your outputs will be.
Yeah, I'll add one thing to that, just to give you guys a practical one that's not for business, but for you personally. You'd brought up itineraries. Well, I'm somebody that typically, because I travel quite a bit for business, and I just go to the airport, I get on a plane, I land in another city, I don't really get to do much. And I was wanting to take an actual road trip for a week, and I had no idea where I was going, what it was going to be like. So I just went in there and I got very specific. I said, you are an expert traveler in the state of, Florida, and this is where I'm going to be starting. This is where I want to end up at. And my goal is to, do this over a few days. And this is the type of food I like. This is the type of things I'm interested in. I like beaches. I like the water. And then I said, and I'm a snob for hotels, but I also don't want to go to the touristy things. I want to do stuff that the locals do, but go ahead and throw in something touristy. Got very specific like that. And it created an incredible itinerary, including stops, reviews, gave multiple options for places to eat along the way. And then there was some festival that was going on at one of them, and it told me it changed my route to make sure that I wouldn't get stuck in this festival and everything was going on. But like the fact that it just did that for me, and it literally did it in like 10 seconds, and I had this entire trip planned out, which I would have never done before, and had an amazing time. And it was like, this is really possible. So, I mean, you can, like Giovanni was saying, is that just get detailed with it and just use it as if its job is to just please you and give you exactly everything you want. And you'd be pretty amazed at the results you'll get rather quickly.
Great. Yeah, definitely great ideas there. I want to make sure that we have enough time for our questions from the audience. I do have some questions that I could keep asking, but I definitely want to get to some questions. So feel free to put in your questions in the chat. I'm seeing one question here. around from work, when leveraging an LLM or large language model and dark data, how do you ensure that AI doesn't give dark data to someone querying the system? Anybody wants to take that?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question and one we grapple with, right? You know, for example, if we want to use for my team, if we want to use customer data to, you know, pass it some numerical data or a table of data, and have it give, you know, value to the customer through, let's say it's a summary of open responses that an employer gathered from, you know, employee surveys. You want to make sure that, you know, you're using a provider that ensures that kind of security. You can also do, you know, I guess if the question is if you're giving the LLM the data and you want to make sure you're protected, be conscious of what you're giving the LLM to begin with. You know, if it's something like Google and you have your own private Google, you know, clouds environment and things like that, then you're pretty safe. But if you're putting your W-2 into ChatGPT, I'd be a little bit nervous regardless. So just be conscious about how you're using the data, what you're using. I tend to err on the side of, you know, caution, or, you know, if you have some data that you want to do something with, maybe anonymize, or there's different methods to kind of work it a little bit so it's not the real quote unquote data.
Great. Yeah. I also see a great comment from Robert there. He's saying AI uses a great amount of energy. I see that a big negative without community as a big negative without community oversight. Comment on that. And then there is a follow-up around it. But I think the energy consumption is certainly a big concern. I think people are, you know, definitely grappling with it. Companies are grappling with it. Anybody wants to comment on that? Yeah, I think the one of the things that is happening with these large language models is because they require so much computing power. For example, ChatGPT 3.5 had like 7.5 billion parameters. ChatGPT 4 had like around 1.5 trillion parameters, and it took literally months to train them, but also ChatGPT 4 had an estimated $100 million to train it, which also has to do with a lot of the energy consumption. And so what companies are moving towards slowly is actually not training these models themselves, but relying on pre-trained models as much as possible, so that then you are building applications on these pre-trained models. Over the past couple years, we have seen steep growth in terms of more and more advanced models being trained. I think for the next few years, we expect to see that, but there is some expectation that we might see that this growth will not be as steep. There won't be as much advantage to training them so quickly, and because we practically are using as much public data as we have on these. And so at some point, this will plateau, and we would be more using more into the AI applications as opposed to generating newer models. So that might slow the energy consumption down a little bit, is my estimate. And then there is also another question around can AI be focused to create more social equity, or will it enrich the AI technology developer? Will it allow for a shorter work week for the country's workforce? Will it create a more competitive environment with new demands on companies and workers? Great question. I just finished a talk last month where we were talking about AI productivity, but really we were also talking about well-being. And the question was, it's about you using the time that we gain from this productivity gains for well-being, right? Because ultimately, why are we doing this? As companies, we want to increase productivity, but is also giving back to our employees, workers who can actually enrich their lives. What do you guys think here?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's almost at a place where it should feel accessible to most workers. And if there's ways that everyone can use it in their everyday life to even, save 2 minutes to review a draft of an email or review a copy for, some marketing. I think we should use that time. I would hope we would use that time for wellness for sure.
Yeah. And I think this idea of the becoming hyper competitive, I think we have to revisit it as a society, because I think part of it is initially, I mean, there's one study that came out that people were secretively using AI for a lot of, employees were using it, especially in their workplace, because concerns being like, should I share my thing? Because if I show how productive I am, you know, then what's my use going to be in terms of like if I show that the tool is actually doing it. But I think the more we have an open conversation and actually have a culture of using and sharing this, as a company, as a society, we will be more productive, but then be able to use this extra time for everybody's well-being, I think.
It's interesting you said we actually have some of the companies we work with as we're implementing onboarding the companies. A staff member will say to us, "Well, I've been using it for my job because it's allowing me to get a lot more done in the day." But I never told them that because I didn't want them to know how I was getting so much done. It's like this. People, they're like concerned about how it's going to be viewed. And what we're seeing now is that the conversation is how can we utilize this to allow us to be more productive collectively, and how can we use this to be able to grow the business. And we had one employer actually tells employee, goes, if you can figure out how to replace yourself with AI, he says, I have a better job for you. He says, because that means you actually have more value you can offer me. So he like gave them challenges to like try to find ways to eliminate some of their tasks or even their job to be able to get additional opportunities. But I think that what you're going to see is that it is a real conversation with the recent updates that have come out, even with the iPhone and stuff like that, where they're building it into it, and consumers are going to start using it more. It's going to just be part of it. I really feel it's kind of like the internet in the 90s. Everybody was scared of it. It's going to replace all these jobs. Now you can't imagine your life without it. And then the smartphones came, and everybody said, no chance I'm spending $1,000 for this, and it doesn't even make sense. And now you can't even imagine your life without it. It's just part of who we are. I believe AI is going to be the exact same way.
Great ideas. So another thought is that people are talking about is general artificial general intelligence, AGI as they call it, right? And so that is kind of taking that idea of using AI and using for everyday use. So for example, Cloud came out with computer use. OpenAI is coming up with something similar where it's becoming more and more integrated into how you do things on your computer or for different things, like using the agent side. Some people are predicting that AGI might be there in 5 years, 10 years. I guess the definition of AGI might vary a little bit as well, but what do you guys have to say about these predictions that you are seeing around AGI?
I think I think it's coming. I think it's going to be a part of our everyday lives. I don't think we'll have robots with us tomorrow folding our laundry. I wish I did, but these are things that I think we need to be ready for. I think it hopefully frees up time for more, like those higher level tasks or more well-being. But yeah, I think it's something that's almost inevitable. Again, maybe there's still some human in the loop, I would hope, for some time. And there are still some things, LLMs are really bad at math still, so we need to kind of work on that. But I think it's coming.
Yeah, I'd agree. I imagine that while it's coming, we're probably going to hit a wall soon, and there's going to need to be a few more very large breakthroughs before we actually get to like some type of artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's incredibly exciting, and I see it becoming even more personalized and predictive, especially in the way that we interact with it. I think that's going to be very interesting. I still think we're a few years away from true AGI, but I like the concept. And when it becomes a reality, though, I do think it's likely going to transform industries in ways that we can't even yet imagine. I think the tools are going to be capable of even higher level decision making, creative problem solving, and probably at some point fully autonomous management of even complex processes. And all that sounds really scary, I thought, but I think that that's also the thing that's really cool about where we're at today is that, I don't think it's a matter of when will it arrive, but rather what can we do with the tools available right now? And that answers a lot. And I think it's only going to get more exciting and interesting for sure. And I hope I can do my laundry as well.
Yeah, that would be great, isn't it? So Burke is asking, is there actually going to be enough data to have true AGI? Yeah, I mean, I'll take a first stab at this. I think it's not just about the data, but also the modalities. Like, for example, there's this whole advancement going on in terms of robotics, but also now that generative AI in different modalities, text, audio, video, combining it with what robots can do. I think that's where I think you might get that laundry folding robot soon. But you know. All right, so I think let's maybe take one more question here if we have.
I have a question. So my name is Julie. What's your view concerning the robots that are going to be birthing babies? Elon Musk robots that are said to be out beginning 2025. Actually, some people have already bought it. It costs $140,000. It can be used for companionship as well as carrying babies as surrogates. So what's your view on that?
Yeah, any takers on that?
I think you're always in any industry, you're always going to have folks who push the limits, right? So that's the extreme of what this can do, and that's not widely available. But I think it gives some, maybe not a north star, but at least some guiding direction of, hey, if this is something that people are interested in, we could build towards this. Again, we won't get there tomorrow, but having that extreme situation, seeing, or circumstance, seeing how it evolves, seeing what problems inevitably come up along the way or what successes they have, the people who might be taking more time to think through some of these problems will learn from that. So that's my take on it.
Great. Yeah, no, I think that as you rightly said, I think the innovation, there are some who are going to push it to the limit. There are some who are going to be first adopters on different things, and will probably try and fail at a few of these ideas. And I think in over time, I think we are going to make some progress. I think that's how we are seeing this play out. So I know we are getting against time, so I want to definitely thank our wonderful panelists. I had a lot of fun and talking to them and learning from them. I want to pass on to Rija for any final thoughts.
Yes, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful and insightful panel discussion. I learned a lot as well from today's panelists and our moderator. And so just we'd like to thank you on behalf of the Office of Alumni Relations, my colleague Amy and myself. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And we're looking forward to forwarding the recording of today's panel discussion to all of our participants. And we also have a platform, Virtual Village, where we house all of our virtual discussions, and we will also share that with you as well. And we're looking forward to 2025, and we'd like to just wish everyone happy holidays, and we look forward to you joining us in the new year. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.